Mahatma Gandhi once said, an error does not become the truth by reason of multiplied propagation, nor does truth become error because nobody sees it. Truth stands even if there be no public support, it is self sustained. A very good afternoon, one and all. I am Anu Bhatnagar, webinar executive, and I welcome you all for this discussion on fake news and mob lynching organized by Law Seekho. So today we'll try to cover the very concept of the fake news and mob lynching. We'll try to cover the reasons behind its growth. What are the Indian laws pertaining to the same, and are our Indian laws sufficient to carve these evils in our society? We'll try to touch some of the international concept regarding the same. Last but not the least, the best way forward. So this session will going to be interesting. So stay tuned with us till the end of the session. And if anybody would be having any query, we'll take that in the end of the session. So today, as a guest speaker, we have with us Advocate Rahul Tiwari. He's a criminal lawyer and he works at Gurugram Court. He deals especially in RERA cases. Also, his area of interest includes criminal laws, cyber and security laws, artificial intelligence laws, and corporate litigation. So I believe we have a lot to learn from you, sir. And thank you for being with us again. And without any further delay, let's start with our session.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Advocate Rahul Tiwari, and today's session is on mob lynching and fake news. And interestingly, these are certain offenses. These are certain offenses. If we see our criminal law jurisprudence, we will find that we don't have any laws to tackle them. And interestingly, these are the offenses which leave a long lasting impact on our society. For example, last year 2020, it was a very difficult year for all of us, and the incidents of fake mob lynching which happened in Palghar, and a lot of instances which happened a year before, between I'm not saying in this webinar, first of all, I'm not going to target any particular political party or any political ideology. Okay, because actually want to explain the concept of mob lynching, which I understood when I was writing a research paper on the same topic in my law school. So if we see what is a mob lynching, first of all, we need to understand what is actually means by mob lynching. Mob lynching means a group of person, and a group of person, they attack a person, without on a suspicion, and without giving the victim a chance to explain himself. They either kill the person, or they after attacking, they give a lot of grievous injuries. So what is there, and one of the common thing is that in most of the cases, the attackers and the victim didn't had the personal enmity. Okay, so this is something very much different from an offense which involved two or more people, or even as it is mentioned in IPC, five or more people. Okay, so in that offense, in usual circumstances in murder, what actually happens, that there is a person who had an enmity with another person, or who came into quarrel with another person. Those two person went into a fight, and one of the party, he gathers the support of 4 or 5 people, or even 20 people, and together those 20 people kill that person. So this is a murder. But in almost every mob lynching cases, you will find that the victim and the killers were actually unknown to each other, and they were unknown to each other, and they didn't had any personal enmity. So what actually happens, and I mean, so what are the reasons which actually instigated such a huge amount of people to take up arms and kill the person to whom they don't know personally, or to whom they don't have any personal enmity? So this is mob lynching, and it is not something which has happened, which has started taking place in last 10 years. This has happened before. Like if you see in USA, the blacks were lynched just because they were black. Okay, in Europe, the same situation happened with the Jews. In India, it is not specifically we can say that the minorities are target, because in this mob lynching part, the minority, the concept of minority changes. And the biggest what with my research work, what I actually found, first I discovered that in approximately more than 90% of the cases, the victim and the victim and the convicts were unknown to each other. They didn't had any personal enmity. So it was the hatred which was there in their mindset, which actually made them to take up arm and kill the person. And what was the main reason? That it starts with a hatred. The fake news becomes a catalyst, and that was the reason in 2018 the WhatsApp had to change its policy in India, because in India everybody just became the journalist. They were just busy forwarding the messages, and they were everyone became doctors, everyone became engineers, and definitely I don't know about the other profession, but everyone definitely became a legal expert. Okay, whether that a person has completed his matriculation or not, but everyone was a legal expert, and they were just forwarding irresponsible messages to everyone, and which actually instigated the hatred. So this is the relation between fake news and mob lynching. And the sad part is that in our country we don't have any laws to deal with them. And this in this webinar, I'm going to specify, I'm going to highlight all those specific provisions where we need to focus, and also apart from the law, where are we as a human being lacking. Okay, because today we cannot just go and blame media for everything. For example, if media shows that this person is wrong, this institution is wrong, the every student in this studying in this university is anti-national, if we believe it, only then the media succeeds, right? So it is first of all, as Anu ma'am said about Gandhiji. Gandhiji also said that if you want to see the change, first of all, be the change you want to see. So if you don't accept the news, the the purpose of fake news will ultimately die, because the biggest motive of fake news is that to sell their own propaganda. And it is not only in India but also in Europe. For example, in I was because of my research work in this field, I just came to know through live law, in fact. And then I also again because the biggest reason how you defeat fake news is that, irrespective of the fact, if you read anything or even from any reliable sources, try to first of all cross check. So I also cross checked the thing, and I found out that before 2014, when European Union election was taking place in UK, I mean, whether they should be the British should be part of EU or not, and then a fake propaganda was spread prior to the election, that if British get away they cancel their participation in European Union, then they will flourish even more economically. And which were, when independence an independent body cross checked after the election, it found out to be false. So it is something which affects not only in India, but it affects everywhere. And that is the reason why it is now essential, even after, when you see, after we have witnessed about the recent WhatsApp privacy controversy, which at present we are no one is in the correct position to explain about the actual legalities. Okay, so it is very much essential to cross examine or to cross check every fact which we received either through online medium or by any other either by online medium or orally or by print medium. Because if thing is, if we don't cross examine it, and we accept the news which we receive, you know, then we become the part of that mob, which not only see, in mob lynching there are two type of crowds. First is the crowd who takes up the weapon and who kills the victim, and the second crowd is who sits at the home, who receives the news that okay, one Dalit fellow was lynched in this part of India, or one Muslim was killed in that part of India, or that journal, for example, the murder of Gauri Lankesh. Okay, now I'll explain how you become the part of the mob in the indirect, or in fact in the passive manner. Suppose you are sitting in the home, you receive that okay, this journalist has been murdered, and you or these students has been attacked, and you sit at home and you said yes, very nice, whatever happened was good. There you became the part of the mob, because had you been in that place, you would have also taken up the weapon, because at home you are justifying that act. And why you justified the act? Because you received a fake news. Okay, and you received a fake news and you accepted it. So this is the major interrelation between fake news and mob lynching, which not only disturbs the social equilibrium of the society, or harmony of the society, but it actually ruins your mindset. Academically, think academically. If you have a habit of becoming a part of mob, can you even can you ever become think rationally about any decision which you make in your life? Because why? You will think about the masses. Either you'll think about the masses, or you will be in constant fear that what if what if the mass doesn't accept my decision. And that is the reason that why the instance of mob lynchings never stops. And the thing is, it from ages and from the timeline, it just keeps on going. Because the thing is, what is actually it happens in mob lynching, either you justify it because you have accepted a fake news, or when you are the part of the mob, you just hate a person just because they does not agree with your viewpoint or your mentality. For example, few weeks back, I'm not even few weeks, BCI just introduced a notification regarding 3 years essential criteria of I'll give you a very simple example that how even and the educated person becomes a part of a mob. That 3 years work experience should be there in what you call it, in the selection of judges. There were majority of the students who didn't like that decision of BCI, but were many who actually supported it. So if you are hating a person just because he's supporting what you don't like, then you again become a part of mob. And there are chances that when you see that person alone, even if you don't know him personally or her personally, just because you have seen that person's interview, there are high chances that either you'll go into a very heated argument with them, or you will start attacking them on either online. That's where even the Twitter trolls, when you troll someone just because you don't agree with it, see, there is a difference between criticizing someone and trolling someone. So when you're trolling someone, you are again the part of that passive mob. Okay, so and when that person is present in front of you, like physically, you can attack that person. So that is mob lynching. And when kill, and it when it happens in a large scale, everyone comes to know on the in the media, in fact the media, and see, and that is where it goes beyond the limit. Where we see a murder taking place, like just forget just forget the killing of the minorities, or the person who does not agree with their thought. I can give you 2 3 examples where the killer and the victim were from same religion. First, The recent mob lynching case of Palghar, two sadhus were lynched by the crowd. 115 people were arrested, and that incident was as it was reported in such a scale by media that even the home minister of Maharashtra had to come up with the list and have to say that please see there is no Muslim in that of the arrested person. Okay, so first was Palghar, where the killer and the victim were from same religion. Second was the incident of mob lynching where Inspector Subodh Kumar was killed in UP. Why? Just because he was investigating the Akhlaq mob lynching case. Who the same Akhlaq who was lynched, who was the victim of mob lynching and killed in Noida, just because there was a suspicion that he was carrying beef, which later by forensic team it was cleared that that meat was not a beef but rather like it was a red meat, but it was not of a beef but it was of a goat. So in Subodh Kumar case, the killers were Hindus. Sorry, I'm using the religion. I apologize. The killer and the victim belong to the same religion. So we can never say that mob lynching means a majority killing a minority. Mob lynching means that the effect of fake news in such a way that the hatred is escalated, and just because and a crowd or a mob, or in Hindi it's called bheed tantra. In democracy in Hindi is called lok tantra, and bheed tantra means mobocracy, means the rule of a mob. Means a mob, if a mob think that the upper caste should prevail, then the backward caste people are lynched. If a mob think that the homosexuals, because what starts with the lynching of minorities on the basis of religion ultimately shift to the ideology. Like, okay, we the mob believes that the right wing ideology is right, then the leftist becomes the victim. If with same is with the casteism, and in fact with the even on the sexuality part, like that's the reason why the homosexual or the transgender had faced so much of discrimination and fear. Why? Just because of fear of attack from a mob. So now, very quickly, I'm going to give away few parts. I've explained you about the mob part. What actually incorporates with the mob lynching? Like, mob lynching means you are being accused of a crime. You are not given proper time, audiodrum partum, that you are not given proper right. You are not heard properly and legally, and that there is a mob who's there to kill you. And they don't have authority to punish any person, and they just attack just because the minority views or the victim's view does not corroborate with the views of the mob. So, and I've explained the direct mob and the indirect part. Indirect mob, indirect route of the mob lynching is even worse, because that's where the media trial gets success, and that's where the fair investigation gets tampered, and that is where you know people come forward and they actually justifies the act. Another example of this, Kathua gang rape case. Okay, an 8-year girl was at a religious site, was raped by like 4 or 5 people, and she was murdered. And then there was a lot of political parties, even the print media, the lot of newspaper, the bar council, they just came into the support of the accused. And that is where it is very much essential for everyone to understand that the if you are the part of the indirect mob, then you are the biggest, in fact the burden, on the state, and you are actually not only misusing your right, but at the same time you are suppressing someone else right, also right to dignity and right to fair right. So, and see, and paraphrasing it, I can give you like the two example, like mob, and why this actually takes place in a larger scale. Why? Because there are two concepts. See, first is what is the truth, and second is what you actually want to listen. If you don't want to listen the truth, you can take again become the part of a mob, of the mob who actually who kills the person. And see, it starts from the hatred, then it is followed by the hate speech in the society. And the hate speech, it increase the intolerance level, give rise to incidents of mob lynching, and it gives rise to riots. See, there are difference between mob lynching and riots. Mob lynching, in riots, there are only one similarity, that both the group does not know each other personally. There is a hatred, and there is a murder, and there is violence. But in mob lynching, there is a group of person who actually finds a person who does not belong to their ideology, and kills the person, and all these ultimately leads to genocide, which is in fact the end of a plural society, which we have seen in Kashmir in late 90s with Kashmiri Pandits, or or in the Sri Lanka, or in fact in the Myanmar with the Rohingyas. So now let me discuss few legalities, because then it will be like, it's going to on more of a social scale rather than the legal aspect. So let's first of all examine that what are the current situations. See, I have told you about about a lot of cases that, and I've also explained about one more example, like the case of Padmavat. Just because you had a suspicion that that movie is going to show uh, a queen in a derogatory manner, you protested, and you created such a chaos that that even in the high court, the national flag from the high court of Rajasthan was removed with their own flag. Okay, so this was one incident. Okay, so now let's move. And in last year, uh, the catalyst, which are the fake news, it actually contributed a lot. For example, and regarding the fake news, I would like to mention again that the biggest they have the biggest motive is to sell their own propaganda, and to hide the failure of the government, or in fact any other person to whom they are defending by the fake news. Like last year also, if we see a lot of cases, of cases such as Sushant Singh case, Tabliki case, one of the news channel, one of the news channel openly propagating about UPSC jihad. Then a lot of fake news regarding the vaccine, and the biggest disaster which took place due to fake news was the mass migration of the person from the northern part of India to Bihar. And in the judgment of Alag Ankit Srivastav versus Union of India, the Supreme Court clearly said that it was not the incapability of the state government or the central government, but it was the fake news which actually led to the mass migration. So the fake news, which actually became a propaganda tool to escalate mob lynching, ultimately backfired and resulted in mass migration in the month of March 2020, when the first lockdown was imposed. Now, moving forward, I hope I'm clear up till here. So, if you have any question, you can ask, or else now I'll move to some legal aspects. Amiss, ma'am.
Yes. If anybody is having any question, so they can ask, or they can raise your hands. I can unmute them.
Okay.
Okay, we do not have any question as of
Okay.
now.
Okay. Cool. So, as
Yes, sir. Yes. Could you please repeat the case name? Tushar
Okay.
is asking.
Alag Ankit Srivastava versus Union of India. It is available on live law. The judgment came at the, I guess, on either on 30th March or 31st March 2020.
It
Okay.
is related to mass migration case.
Fake news, fake news. See, the Supreme Court,
Okay.
the main ratio was given in the judgment was that the biggest reason for the migration was the fake news, because ultimately there was a lot of propaganda which was taking place in the media that the migration happened due to that, due to this. So just Supreme Court
Yes.
clarified that no, nothing happened. It was all due to the panic created by the fake news. And before moving forward, see, the thing is, for mob lynching, a lot of political parties doesn't want to make the law. Like in Rajasthan, actually came up Rajasthan and the state of West Bengal. They made a specific bill about on the mob lynching, and I'll discuss that bill after analyzing my paper and explaining this to you regarding the technical legal technicalities of the mob lynching. Thank you, Tushar. And then I will explain about the act made by the Rajasthan government on mob lynching and what are the shortcomings which can be improved. And then very quickly I'll cover the fake news part. So
Right.
regarding the fake,
Sir, do we have time? We have one participant, Akil Ahmed Faruqi. He wanted to ask question.
yeah, I'll take that question. Just let me explain one thing.
Yeah,
See,
sure,
for
sure.
the mob lynching part, why the most of the political parties are are case citation. It's available on live law. You can check it. See, what actually take place, what happening is that the fake news propaganda is used by a lot of political parties to propagate their own ideology, or to sell their own ideas. And in mob lynching part, in most of the cases what happen is that in many cases the main accused gets away very easily. So these can be reason why most of the government are reluctant to make a law on mob lynching. And regarding the fake news, when the first uh, cyber law was enacted in our country, which was Information Technology Law 2000, and its major amendment in 2008. Actually, in both the time, the government didn't realize the importance which should be given to the fake news. So it should be which should have been given to the fake news, and they were not even ready to acknowledge that fact, and we should not blame it, because it is something that with the advancement of social media and any first the social media and the smartphone, in the smartphone eras, now it has become very much essential to focus on the fake news part, because as of now the law which deals with it is just confined to Section 67D of Information Technology Act. And the biggest hurdle in the fake news, which was exposed in the WhatsApp controversies, is that the government needs to actually, they are finding a lot of difficulties in enacting the law for fake news, because it's very easy to make a law that yes, whosoever spreads the fake news, it will be punished. For that, we have the law. But the biggest hurdle comes is that the intermediate liability, that because if they become more strict on intermediate liability on Section 79 of Information Technology Act, then it can breach the right to privacy, which should be avoided. And also that the incident of mob lynching can only be curbed if we have a proper mechanism to first to regulate intermediate liability properly. Because if the fake news is not spread, then the mob lynching incidents can be controlled rather than punishing the victim. Okay, so we are please tell me the question. After that I'll move forward.
Yes. Uh, Mr. Faruqi, please ask your question.
Yeah. So,
Yes, you are audible. Please ask your question.
sir, my question was like you mentioned that there are many people who are not like lawyers or engineers, but they're trying to show that as if they have the entire knowledge, and because of that, they're spreading the fake news. But I like to just point out the incident with Kanhaiya Kumar in the court, where the lawyers who are like ambassador for justice, and when they manhandled him, so what? Because so they were not uneducated or something, but they were like not.
I'll come to that.
Yeah.
I'll come to, oh, okay, first let me tell you, explain you this part. See what actually happened. A fake news was propagated that, these anti-national, so-called anti-national slogans are raised in the prestigious JNU. And the idea was to create a hatred for Mr. Kanhaiya Kumar, who was the student union leader. And that is where both the thing happened. First, fake news started, then there was an arrest, and those person who manhandled Mr. Kanhaiya Kumar, they actually believed the incident to be true. So that is mob lynching, because they didn't knew Kanhaiya Kumar personally, and they didn't had the exact source of information. Like same happened in Kerala, and I was about to come on that also. What happened that there was a person, he was a beggar basically, and he was very hungry. He was a beggar, and he was trying to steal some rice to eat. And the crowd actually, they started beating him, and ultimately that person died. And if we see the literacy rate, it is highest in Kerala, and that is where whether the same happened in the same happened. The incident happened in Patiala House Court in 2016. And this Kerala incident also, it actually explained that a person can be literate but not educated. Okay, so I hope this answers your query. So now let me move forward. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
So as of now, the only incidents where the punishment has been given for the for the accused of mob lynching is the case of Alimuddin, where the Jharkhand High Court actually gave the convicts the life imprisonment, and it was only until the 2018, in the Tehseen Poonawalla judgment, that actually Supreme Court took cognizance and explained that yes, the mob lynching is on the rise, and we need to curb that. And in that incident, what actually happened that the state and actually what happened, and they gave the certain provisions that these are the preventive measures, punitive measures, that police should do this, police should do that. But ultimately, there are only two ways that on these mob lynching incidents can come down. First, whenever there is a fake news being spread on the hatred, whether it's based on religion, ideology, sexuality, or on the caste issues, first of all, we need to cross check that fact. On another incident, see what actually happened in recently in Munawar Faruqi case. He is arrested. Why? Because they had a suspicion that he might come and make derogatory remarks against one particular religion. And I see, as a lawyer, I should not openly criticize uh, the judicial officers, but as of now, I don't see any. I have failed to understand the merits of the denial of his bail. And what actually happened? That the fake news, the mob mentality, it actually creates the pressure on the judicial officer also. And it creates a pressure not only on the judicial officers, it affects their judging skills, and often their impartiality takes the back seat. So now very quickly, in the Tehseen Poonawalla judgment, what happened in the Supreme Court clearly said that a dynamic contemporary constitutional democracy means that it has an essential feature of accommodating pluralism, which means on accommodating pluralism on thoughts, and preserve unity of the country and to promote to promote tolerance. Okay, and this was the basic. And after this, Orbiter, it held that the incidents of mob lynching has no place in a civil society. Okay, and that's where I explained, that hatred, hate speech, hate speech, and then hate speech, then violence, mob lynching, rights, genocide. So as of now, we need to understand that we are ultimately like few steps away from the away from genocide. So, and if that takes place, then ultimately they'll a lot of, in if you see this in a lot of society, there is a class war or civil war, and actually it destroys the notion of the states. Okay, so now moving, and another reasons for mob lynching was a few years back. I don't know about the recent cases, because it can be because we don't see in the news. Okay, like last year during the Haryana elections, there were incidents where the people of minorities were get beaten up during the elections part. Same happened with the Akhlaq case and the Junaid case, of where they were, beaten and ultimately killed by the cow vigilantes. And yes, I've covered the Subodh Kumar case also. And see, another part of another aspect of mob lynching is that when you try to di- disturb the harmony of the society, or just because you don't agree with certain facts, like the same which we witnessed in the case of Ram Rahim, when he was given the imprisonment by the CBI court. His followers started beating up the police. They damaged the public property, and ultimately there was lots of loss to property, and lot of civilians were heavily injured. Okay, so this is where we have to understand that the concept of mob lynching, it has never benefit to any it has never benefit to any section of the society. Okay, so and thing is, it's now high time that we actually need to have a laws to curb the incidents of mob lynching. Now, causes of mob lynching: first are the communal politics, religious violence, feudalism. I have explained the case of Akhlaq, Alimuddin, the cases of Katua, the cases of even the Ankit Saxena, okay, and the Chandan Kumar in the UP. As they were found alone, they were beaten by the mob just because on the basis of religion they were lynched. Okay, so, and then the cases and the recent case of Rakbar Khan in the Rajasthan. So these are the cases which which actually expose that how badly we are using the technology. The technology which was created to make a better way of communication, which and which we have turned into make a quicker way to spread the hatred. Earlier, someone used to give the hate speech on a stage, people used to listen, and then the rumor you used to propagate. But now, in the today, in the more technologically advanced society, the rumor becomes a fact in a very short span of time. Then other reasons are for mob lynching are no tolerance and dissent for the opinion on the whether it's on politics, or like I said, just because someone gives that their opinion that yes, there should be uh, there should be 3 years experience on the selection of judicial officers. And I started receiving a lot of hate messages that yeah, this is wrong, and whatever I'm doing is incorrect, and all everything. And another incident, and that's where we have to understand, it is never against majority versus minority on the basis of religion or anything. It is just on the basis of ideology. Like, if I believe this is right, then you have to believe this to be right. Like, for example, in Kashmir, in one of the case, what happened that there was a DSP, Muhammad Ayub Pandit. He was, he was lynched by the crowd just because he was about to take some action on suspicious on he was about to take action on some suspicious people. And then yes, abuse of society, like in one of the cases uh, Madhya Pradesh, where a person who was actually mentally challenged, she was killed on the suspicion of child trafficking. And then there were incidents that where a software engineer was killed in Bangalore, in the southern part of the society, on the suspicion of human trafficking, and all these were because of mob lynching. Sorry, on the reasons for the fake news. Moving forward, like I've covered the Padmavat part, vigilantism part, yes, the idea of state and sovereignty, and then yes, now the last part is that what is the difference between riots and mob lynching? Because in order to defend a few people accused of mob lynching, they said that okay, 1984 also it should be the 1984 should be termed as India's first mob lynching. The the Sikh riots, which can say, or even the program I would use instead of the word riots. So actually, let me define you in the very simplistic manner. See, in riots, what actually happens? There is a group of person of opposite ideology or religion or on the caste base. They clash and the violence takes place. Okay, but in mob lynching, there's a rumor and hatred in the mindset of the society. That particular crowd, just on the suspicion, picks a person or a two and it kills them. Okay, so that is mob lynching, and there it's a difference between riots and mob lynching. Mob lynching always comes first, it is followed by the riots, and then riots after riots, when the harmony of the society is completely destroyed, it leads to genocide. Okay, so please just remember this chain, because and that is the reason that there are a lot of people who does not want to acknowledge until unless we don't come into the stage where frequent riots are taking place in every, not on the corner of the country, but every streets. Okay, let's pray that we don't reach to that level. So, and the main catalyst in all these three process is the fake news. So now, as Supreme Court said that there should be preventive measures, remedial measures, punitive measures, it actually it will succeed only when we actually acknowledge this fact that whatever is happening is wrong. Because when we do not become the part of the passive mob, okay, who sits at home and justifies that yes, that university students were attacked, it was good. Oh, that journalist was killed, it was good. Oh, that guy was killed by the crowd on the for having beef, it was good. Unless and until we don't start questioning ourselves, any law will just act as a punitive measures. There can never be a preventive measures. Like for example, let me highlight few things of the mob lynching bill which was passed by the Rajasthan court. See, they made a very comprehensive law, but I feel that there were few issues in that it said that two or more person are part of a mob. First example, for like first thing, that 2 to 3 people can never become a mob. It should follow the definition of IPC, which says that 5 or more people. And also in the first part, the chapter 2, it provides a lot of power to the police officers, but it fails that if the police does not it fails to explain the provisions, that what if the police fails to do his duty properly, which happened in the case of Rakbar Khan. Because when he was taken to the hospital, which was just which was I guess 6 to 7 kilometers from the place of incident. The police took 3 hours. And a lot of person actually had a suspicion in mind that the police wanted to avoid the dying declaration of the victim. So these this and the third part, the section 11 of the bill, it talks that whosoever disseminate any message which spreads the hatred will be punished. It should specifically have the provisions for the fake news. Like until unless we don't have any specific legislation for fake news, because there is a problem for intermediate liability if we make a specific legislation, unless and until it can be for the punitive part, the fake news can be embedded in the mob lynching laws if the government decides to make, which they actually should make, because the Supreme Court clearly said that you have like 1 year time, or in the Tehzeen Poonawala judgment they gave like 6 months or time to make a law, comprehensive law on the mob lynching part, and then after the expiry of that period, the Supreme Court issued the same. With but as of now, 2.5 years has passed, and we don't see any law on mob lynching which is made, but it should be made, and these are my few suggestions which should be there. Like regarding the punishment for the mob lynching, section 6. When we read section 6, 7, and 8, I feel it's more than enough, and yes, it should be taken up at the national level. Now, very quickly, uh, let me explain the concept of fake news. See, I've explained what is fake news. I've explained what actually happened in the UK before their election. But before proceed moving forward, I have explained that fake news has got their own agenda. That to first to propagate their own ideology or their agenda, and to hide a specific fact or the failure of the government or the person to whom they are defending. Now, what are the results of the fake news? It leads to mob lynching. It leads to propagation of religious hatred, which we saw in the Jamaat case last year. It leads to defaming a person, like for example, Dr. Kafil Khan. What happened with Dr. Kafil Khan? The person was regularly being acquitted by the courts, but by any other charges, he's arrested again and again, because no, here when the fake news was spread against Dr. Kapil Khan that he was transporting few oxygen cylinder, the idea was to hide the failure of government, that why there was shortage of like oxygen cylinder or other medical equipments in the government hospital, obviously to sell their own propaganda, like the famous chip in the 2000 note, which still no one has found, and I will never advise you to tear the 2000 rupees note and find it, because trust me, money is very hard earned. And that too I'm saying that after after into the legal field for last 2.5 years, I understand that how hard is to earn money. So please don't do that. And obviously another result of the fake news is that it creates panic. See what happened in the Indore, the stone pelting cases by the minorities on the medical team, that because the fake news was spread that they are going to inject them with some either with the poison or some other things, some harmful thing. And then again, it was the reason why in the Alok Srivastava versus Union of India 2020, Supreme Court clearly acknowledged the issue of fake news also. And in 2018, it acknowledged the crime of mob lynching, and obviously their own ideology. So as of now very quickly, what if if the government does not comes up with any measures, what are the available laws which you can use it to for your safeguard or to get your legal remedy? First is section 504 of Indian Penal Code, which is talks about intentional insult to provoke the breach of peace, and section 505 for conducting public mischief, section 507 for criminal intimidation, section 153A to create for promoting enmity between two religious groups, section 295A for blasphemy, like for hurting the religious sentiment of the people. Section 120 for criminal conspiracy, section 499 for defamation. These are the legal measures available to counter fake news. And section 409, if some which is always read with section 66D of Indian IT Act 2000, which penalize that if you are trying to impersonate anyone, and impersonate and you want to cheat someone. And obviously section 67 66D and section 67 of IT Act, which talks about the publishing and transmitting of obscene material in electronic form. So, and these are the few things which uh, which you can have for your safety. And before moving for the recommendation for the fake news part, first of all, let's understand that if someone makes someone propagates or spreads the fake news, see what is the actually condition of the victim. See, first of all, if we propagate if someone's propagate the fake news, see, the social prestige and reputation of the victim is destroyed. Even after he wins the cases in the court, he is never able to regain his own reputation. And before moving forward, see, there is a difference between spreading fake news and media trial. Fake news is also there has been, it's been a proven incident that it is done by the media also. Like in Kathua case, one of the prestigious print newspaper in Hindi language, it clearly uh, you know uh, gave the headline that no rape happened in the Kathua. Okay, so this is a fake news. And media trial means if the case is pending, if the criminal case is pending in the court and the media conducts a specific trial. Okay, and the fake news is that it like spreading of false information about a correct fact. Like, for example, in the JNU incident, their fees was hiked from 27,000 a year to 65 to 75,000 a year, which would have made the JNU the most expensive public university in India. But it was propagated in various news channels that the fees of JNU was increased from 10 rupees a month to 300 rupees a month. So this is fake news. Okay, and regarding the Kanhaiya Kumar case, or even the Babri Masjid case, or any other cases, if the case is pending in the court, which is called matter is sub judice, means means under the observation of the court, and the media runs a parallel trial, like which happens in the case of Hasleen Kaur case, the fake molestation. Ultimately, the accused was acquitted, or even the Rohtak sister cases. So this is media trial. And fake news is something spreading a false information to propagate their own ideology. And obviously the other condition is that if the social reputation of the victim is destroyed, and so ultimately his right to fair trial is hampered along with his right to privacy. So now, before ending this, what are the few recommendation? See, I've discussed about the mob lynching part, and now for the fake news part, I have divided my recommendation into two parts. Like, for recommendation to a person as an individual, and then I have recommendation for the state. So now, first, for a person is that yeah, stop watching news. Okay, but I should not say with my full authority. But see, if we are watching any news channel, please, before accepting any fact, first, please always verify it, and use free apps like Live Law, Bar and Bench to refer about the legal news. Because there, I am most of the time I see, I will not justify these apps, because what if in future there is a fake news being disseminated, being spread on these platforms. So I would say that up till now I found all the facts given on these apps as to be correct. But obviously, where whatever news which you receive, first of all, stop taking news on WhatsApp and Facebook. Okay, if you receive a news from Live Law, Bar and Bench, or any other news channel, please verify the fact before accepting it. Okay, and if you receive any, if you receive any news which you feel that an hate speech is being spread, immediately inform to the police. And obviously, if someone is spreading a fake news against you, your legal remedy is that you can file a defamation case against them. Because if a fake news is being spread against you, okay, that you are a child trafficker or you are eating beef, then there are high chances that you can be a target of a mob. So you can file a defamation case against the person. Or if the case is registered against you due to fake news, first thing you should do is you should apply for interim stay on the news proceeding under order 39. It allows the person to, it actually allows you to have your interim stay on the news channel, that till the time the trial is being conducted, no news channel can report anything on this matter. You can take a specific you can take such specific remedies which is there in CPC. And for example, I can give you an example of this also. Uh, there is a politician called Gopal Kanda. He's accused of abatement of suicide of two-person, and also he's been accused of sexually abusing them. So, and what actually happened that when a lot of news channels started reporting about him, he went to the court and asked for the stay, because it whether the person has done the crime or not, every person has the right to fair trial. And if the media, even if the media, if see the if suppose for a fake news, a case is registered against you, and you have asked for interim stay, even if the media is still showing news about you, you can sue that particular media house for you can particular sue that particular media house for contempt of criminal contempt of court. Okay, now uh, for example, now you are a private individual, you see a fake news being spreaded, but it is not related to you. So what is your duty now? As of now, the media is self-regulated, but whatever it is broadcast in the TV, it is regulated by Broadcast Content Complaint Council, BCCC called. So you can complain. It was established by Indian Broadcasting Foundation. You can write in complaint that this channel on this time showed these information which are derogatory, which are hurting the religious sentiment, or any which it is a fake news, and please ask to stop. So it will be the duty of BCCC to find the news channel and to issue a clarification and a public apology within 30 days time. If it is not, if the broadcast content complaint committee does not act to your complaint, then you can approach the court. So these are my few recommendations. As a private individual, if the fake news is being propagated against you, what you can do, and if you see that a fake news is being spread, then what is your duty? And if you say that like, sir, you are advising so much, have you done anything like that? Then I would say that there has been one incident, to not to show that I'm a hero or something, but I felt like I should do it. Last year, you must have seen there's an app. I've forgotten the name of the app. Where you post a video of 10-15 seconds. It's a Chinese app which is banned now.
TikTok.
Uh, huh?
TikTok.
TikTok, yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah, it's a rubbish app. I've never used it, thankfully. So actually, what happened? There's a person who posted a video where he was licking notes. Okay, and he said that the corona has been sent by our God, and there is no, vaccine or no medicine available for it, and nothing will happen to us. But you guys are dead now because you have brought laws like CA and NRC. And a lot of my friend just approves that, see what is actually happening, and you should do, I mean, we all should sue. So I should told them that, okay, this is the cyber cell, please file a complaint. I also filed the complaint. Thankfully, he was arrested, and I received a message from an IPS officer from Nasik where the accused person was arrested. Okay, just because he was trying to spread the hatred through online medium. Okay, so this is your duty. The video will be available online also. You can again recheck whatever advice I have given. Now, before leaving it, as I have analyzed the mob lynching bill also, I have certain recommendation for the government, irrespective of the fact whether they comply with it or not. But it is our duty, as they have given vote to the government in the power, that and that they should actually listen to us. And it is that like in India, we don't have as of now any laws for to govern fake news and mob lynching. Thankfully, there are two states who have actually drafted the mob lynching bill, and it is on the verge of there are chances that after few corrections, the laws will be passed. First, for the punitive part, we can take help from, we can take inspiration from Singapore, and we can impose heavy fine on the person who actually spreads the fake news. And then actually it is very important to work upon the intermediate liability part, because that is where that see if a even if a person, sorry, if the government or if the police ask the intermediary that what was the source of information, who gave that information which spreaded that hatred and ultimately results in mob lynching, it should be the responsibility of mob lynching, sorry, responsibility of intermediary to provide that specific information to the government. But it is very much important that there has to be a timeline or time frame which should be given, that within 72 hours or 48 hours the intermediate should give the information to the security agencies. And also it is also very much important that see, we have sensors on part kind of censorship on the social media also. Like if someone tries to post something derogatory, the so even the Facebook also said that this post is is against our policy, the against our policy safeguard, and we are not going to post it. Okay, so these are certain things which should be made more strict on the part of intermediary, to check that there is less propagation of the fake news which is being spread on through their medium. Okay, so these are the few things which have I had my advice for the government, that it is very much essential that proper laws should be made for fake news and mob lynching. And in fact, because the fake news not always results in the mob lynching. Okay, but there are other aspects also which through which harmful effect are seen due to fake news, such as the mass migration, the media cases of the Tablighi Jamaat. So there are other cases also. So it is very much it is high time now that the laws on the mob lynching and fake news should be there. And when the laws are made on the mob lynching, then ultimately they should have a specific provision for the fake news. So this was my a small analysis on this two important topics. I just hope you all have liked it, and now I'm open to the questions.
Right, a great session. So we have received a couple of questions. I'm taking from one question from Amrit Sundar Banerjee.
Yeah.
So he's asking, like, what's your views on Tabriz Ansari mob lynching case?
Mhm.
Why a particular community is being targeted again and again, and who owes the responsibility for the same?
The Tabriz Ansari case, which happened in August or September 2019. It was after like 7 to 8 months after the, or I guess after 1 year of the judgment of Alimuddin. And the police actually, what happened, that the police in their first charge sheet said that the Tabriz Ansari didn't die because of the violence, but because of the internal injury which he had sustained before the incident. So the thing is, I just wanted to add few more facts on the Tabriz Ansari case to the person who has asked. See, actual thing is, it is not always that a particular community is targeted, and that is why I have given you so many examples that in the Palghar what happened. And yes, because of which a lot of vigilantism, and because of a lot of hatred in the society, and obviously there are certain indirect motivation from not all, but few person in the power, like in the Subodh Kumar case. The person who were accused of uh, accused of murder of the Inspector Subodh Kumar, when he was released on bail, he was given a lot of appreciation by certain politicians. So the fear that even if I kill someone and I will get away because there is no particular law for it, you know ultimately this is the thing. Ultimately, these are the things which encouraging people to act more violently. But it is not always the fact that the software engineer who was killed due to who was killed because on the suspicion of being a child trafficker, or the a mentally challenged woman who was lynched in uh, I guess Riva, or there is a district Singrauli, Madhya Pradesh, who was killed on the suspicion of child trafficking. They were not from the minorities. But the thing is, that is what I wanted to explain, that mob lynching, which started from targeting a minority. Why? Just because that person from the minority does not agree with the viewpoint of yours, and you started killing him. Ultimately shift from religion to caste to ideology and to sexuality. Okay, so it is not always confined to just religion. Okay, I'm just trying to highlight the fact that mob lynching itself is a crime. Okay, and it is a crime where the person does not know each other, and just because they come to know that you belong to that minority category, here the minority means that you are not agreeing with the facts of the mob, and then you are being targeted. Okay, next question.
Right. I guess you have already answered this question. He has asked another question that in the case of Palghar mob lynching, is it only
Mhm.
a agitation of public, or there was any kind of a hidden conspiracy behind it, like uh,
Uh,
prior premediation of
See,
minors?
in Palghar case, all the person who were arrested and and the victim, they belong to the same religion. And I again said, the Palghar incident was nothing but but a result of the anger which arose due to the fake news which was being spread against those two victims. There was fake news that whether they are trafficking meat of beef, uh, whether they are moving beef, or whether they are certain people who are in who are in the disguise of a sadhu, and they are going to do something very wrong, just because a rumor was spread, and that fake news, actually resulted in such a anger in the crowd that it actually resulted in this incident. Okay.
Right, sir. So we have taken all the relevant questions, and if anybody would be having any questions, so you can reach out to Advocate Rahul Tiwari, sir, on his LinkedIn. And as of now, we have taken all the questions. So I believe we have greatly summed up this session today. And I believe that through this channel, government and the other authorities would definitely listen the some of the recommendation which you gave. And it's also an appeal to law students and other people, vigilant citizen of this nation, that you can also write some good blogs and articles about the same. So that will be helpful, and you can put your views as well.
And
So
I would like to just add one more thing, that I wrote my paper on mob lynching when I was an intern under Law Seco and in their Delhi office, and that was the time I was actually explore. Actually, I was supposed to write a blog for your I pleaders blog, and we were given an assignment. But actually what happened that when I started collecting the fed, and Abhyudaya sir also explained that how do you write a blog, what should be the structure, and actually it happened that, and the first part within that month, it resulted in that it after all the addition, that I couldn't minimize further, and it was in the final shape was of 4,000 words. So I thought that okay, it is no longer a blog, now it's a research paper, so I'll publish it, and first I'll present somewhere and I'll publish it. Okay, there is one more comment also, I guess. It's from
yes,
I think people are not convicted in, and I'm really so Mr. Faruqi, I would like to disagree with you. In Alumuddin case, the people are being convicted, and yes, because we don't have any specific law on the mob lynching, so the trial is, the trial actually, problem with the trial is that the collection of evidence and cross examine takes a lot of time, because we don't have any specific provisions that how, if the person are arrested on the crime of a mob lynching, how they are going to be tried, and how the all the evidence should, one evidence which is taken against a one particular person, whether it should be applicable for all, or whether, see, if what is the punishment, that if you were just standing there and watching. So it is very difficult to ascertain that, suppose there are 10 people and 2 3 people were just standing there, they were happy that this incident was taking place. So should you whether so should you will you convict them for criminal conspiracy, or you will convict them for not giving information to the police, or they were also accused, or they were part of the murder. So just because we don't have any specific legislation, it also becomes for the court to to conduct the trial in a more proper manner.
right, sir. Uh, so
Any other sites like bar and bench, SSC online?
okay, so it's time to yes. Thank you, Faruqi sir. Okay, so now we'll sign off, and thank you, Rahul sir, for joining this session today. And we'll be coming with some another these such topics we'll be coming up with. And thank you, participants, for joining this session. And now I'll sign off. Thank you, everyone.